You were quoting Haberfeld.
Why he says that?
Yeah.
Don't forget to breathe. I didn't know that.
To me.
Okay, hi everybody. Good morning. So we're in chapter Kafdalad, chapter 24 in Mamar Hekaltsu, and let's just do a quick review of what we talked about yesterday. We're in the middle of talking about how Chokhmah and Binah, these two creative modalities, that on the one hand you can look at them as intertwined, on the other hand you can look at them as two separate things. And the example we gave yesterday of how Chokhmah and Binah are not the same thing is how you could have a case of Chokhmah without Binah. So the Chokhmah is the being absolutely sure of something in your kishkas, in your intestines. You know you're absolutely convinced of something. You know it to be true, but you can't explain it to anybody. And you can't even explain it to yourself, but you know it to be true. It's actually an amazing level because it's actually, in some ways, it's the source of faith, right? Because ultimately, something which is subject to faith is something almost by definition, which can't be proven. You know, there's very few things that really be proven in life. But faith is chokhmah. Faith is that I know this to be true, and you can never shake me from this. And you could talk to your blue in the face. You can give me all the proofs you want to. Nothing can shake me. Why? Because I know it on the level of chokhmah. I know on a level is so deep and so real that it can't be put into words. Because words, in the end of the day, are artificial. Words are invention. Words are not the real thing, right? Reality is deeper than words. So the example that was given was a case in the Gomorrah. So that kind of a mind-blowing case because the Gomorrah itself is, if it's anything, it's words. A real lot of them takes up a couple of bookshelves of words. And the discourse of debates between sages is words. I remember my Rebbe in yeshiva used to say that if you can't put it in words, you don't know it. It's the exact opposite of what we're saying. But that's in yeshiva. When you're in a base medrash and you're debating a halachic issue, if you can't put it into words, you can't explain it, you lost. But the example that was given yesterday was where a great sage had an opinion, Rav, about a chick which was born on Yom Tov. And he said that it wasn't kosher. And two other sages, Rav Kanan and Rav Asi, said, you can better prove that to us it's not kosher because we have a very good logical word-oriented argument that it is kosher because it should be no different than the case of a calf which is born on Yom Tov, which in fact is kosher. So we discussed that yesterday. But the amazing thing is that Rav Asi, like when he heard the argument, Rav, when he heard the argument, he didn't say, well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. You beat me down. Okay, I give in. Uncle, I give in. Remember that? Yeah. Someone, when you're beaten up by that neighbor who's a bully. Uncle, say uncle, uncle! So he didn't say uncle. Except he couldn't explain why. That's amazing. Because he knew on the level of chokhmah. This, by the way, is the reason that Jews throughout history, I'm going to say something a little scary right now, have been willing to become martyrs. That's not a small thing, give up your life for something. Because I can think of all kinds of very good logical reasons why you shouldn't give up your life for something. And Jews have been willing to do it. And the Baal Tanya points out even bad Jews, if I could use bad Jews, like not so ay. They weren't like candidates to become the chief rabbi of Sacramento, right? But they gave up their lives because at a certain circumstance, they had nothing to do with reasons or explanations or anything else. It was just
sanctity of
they got down to the nikudah, that point. That nikudah, that's chokhmah, is the nikudah, the point. He said, things are more valuable than my biological existence. That's heavy. Now I'm going to say, here's the nasty thing. Ready for this? whoever I offend with this statement, please forgive me in advance. I'm asking for a down payment, deposit, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Oh, time is out. Or up. Out. Early in the morning. See, I'm beyond words. I'm at that level of chokhmah. So I'll just think it. Okay, let's go on. So many historians have pointed out the difference between what happened in the 15th century in Spain versus the Crusades, which was in Eastern Europe and in Central Europe. Similar historical incidences in terms of terrible persecution, anti-Semitic persecution. And the Jews of Spain, many of them, and God forbid, I am not judging. They became conversos, they outwardly became Catholics. And again, I'm not blaming anybody. This is the reason why, by the way, that a lot of historians think that a incredible percentage of people who live in Central and South America, Hispanic population, are actually of Jewish ancestry. And we meet people all the time. You talk to them, and they're like coming out of the woodwork, and they have these like memories of, and even some names. There's some Hispanic names that it's known that those names were particularly associated with Jews.
Goldstein.
Well, Goldstein, yeah, that was a hard one there. That's I never saw you funny before. That's amazing. Wow, I'm gonna make a shechianu. God bless us for coming to this day. Moria has a sense of humor. That's amazing. She seems so serious and scary usually. Wow. Okay. Man, now I know why you married her, among other reasons. That was good. In any case, the Jews during the Crusades, similar idea, because the Crusaders were going to liberate the Holy Land from the infidels, right? Go kill a bunch of Muslims and Jews. So on the way there, they said, hey, why do we have to wait all the way to get to the Holy Land to kill Jews? Do it right here. Of course, unless they see the light. It's interesting that by and large, Christian anti-Semitism was not racial anti-Semitism. It was, if you were willing to see the light, you could become more or less the Pope.
Only for Jews, not for blacks.
Yeah, that I'm not familiar with, but it's an amazing thing that some of the biggest Christians, so-called Christians, were actually Jews. There's a very famous debate between the Ramban. Yeah, Pablo Cristiani. This guy was like, his name was really Goldstein, Seymour Goldstein.
Yeah, right.
That was his Jewish name. That's amazing. In any case, they gave up their lives. The Jews in Europe gave up their lives in Central. And so all historians, secular historians, trying to figure out why the difference. So you can give all kinds of different explanations, but I know that some people want to suggest, and again, with all due respect, that because of the encroachment of kind of rationalist philosophy in Spain, so where everything is explainable, right? Because that's sort of the basis of Aristotelian philosophy and the whole, with all due respect, again, the approach of the Rambam. Everything can be explained, everything is logical, and you can build upon arguments, right? If this is true, then this is true, and it leads us to this, and blah, 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 kind of a geometric type of mathematical argument. So if that's kind of your mode of thinking, then if someone puts a gun to your head and says, become a Christian or not, so you can sort of think of all kinds of logical ways of saying, yeah, that makes sense, because, okay, so I'll be a Jew secretly. But for a world which is much more steeped in the Kabbalah, much more steeped in not geometric kind of philosophical thinking, you don't think so much. You just, I believe. That's chokhmah. Okay? So that's an example given the more of Rav. Rav said that Beitza Shelo Da B'Yom Tov, that this, the chick that was born on Yom Tov, so it's not kosher. Why? Well, I just can't say it in words, but I know for sure it's true. That's chokhmah. So that's an example of chokhmah being separated from Bina. Bina is the analytical words. Now we're going on, and we're in on page Kaftet, about 12 lines down. That Chokhmah and Bina are two different forces. That each one of these forces, Chokhmah, which is the deep pre-analytical, that's in the kish, because I just know it to be true. It's unshakable, rock solid, versus Bina, which is analytical. Each one of those flowing from a different source. Now we're going to learn a new term. It's amazing the terms we're learning. This could become useful in the gym today. If anybody asks you about this, and if they do, don't talk to them about it. The Chokhmah Shorashami Mazal V'Notzer. That Chokhmah flows from the Mazal of Notzer. Now let me say what's going on. You know, we have the 13 attributes of Kadosh Baruch Hu, his attributes of mercy. So in the Torah, when it discusses that, it mentions all these divine qualities. Notzer Chesed Lalafim, that God guards. Notzer Chesed Lalafim, he guards kindness to the thousands of generations. And in the same list, you know where we say these things when we daven? Does anybody remember? We recite the 13 attributes of mercy of Hashem.
Yeah, during a fast.
During a fast day. Excellent. And that's coming up real quick.
Sunday.
On Sunday, we have a fast day. And we're going to say Slichot here. Bezrat Hashem will have a minyan. Sunday, we should have a problem. We'll be able to say Slichot. We recite these because we want to evoke God's attributes of faith. So Notzer is, where it says Notzer Chesed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu guards the attribute of Chesed. And then V'nakeh is the very last one. Nakeh means, and he cleans. V'nakeh. V'nakeh, purges. That's a good translation. As a kashrut expert, that's a good one, to purge. So V'nakeh, God cleans. Or somebody's translated, acquits. Acquits. What's an English word? Acquits. Okay. So these are mazalot. These are constellations. They're divine powers, okay, that are created. And Chokhmah flows from the Mazal of Notzer, and Bina comes from the Mazal of V'nakeh. Okay, now, let's read on a little bit, and then we'll explain this more. You're going to learn some amazing things here. Everybody's heard this expression, Mazel Tov. Everybody, obviously, everybody knows this. Mazel Tov. So that's the word Mazal. Everybody think, if you talk to someone in the street and you say, even non-Jews know what that means, Mazel Tov. And they'll say, oh, it means congratulations in Jewish, right? Of course, it doesn't mean congratulations. Anybody know what it really means, Mazal Tov? Good. Yeah, but it doesn't actually mean fortune either. What's Mazal mean? Anybody know?
Isn't it like being affected by the stars?
Yes, it means good constellation. Mazal is a constellation. So when you say to somebody, Mazal Tov, you know what you're really saying? May this event be happening under a good astrological configuration. It's an astrological thing. Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov. May it be a good mazal, a mazal. Doesn't mean luck. It doesn't mean fortune. It means constellation. Okay. So we're not going to learn the deeper idea behind what a mazal is today. Shehem shnei makorim yuchadim zemizeh. That the mazal of Notzer, one is called Notzer, and another mazal is called Nakeh, preserving versus cleaning or acquitting. So they're two different mazalot. Those are two different sources, and Chokhmah and Bina come from those two ones respectively, right? As we just said, that Chokhmah comes from Notzer and Bina comes from Nakeh. There really are, they're polar opposites. Polar opposite. The Notzer hu lashon shmira. The word Notzer also means to guard. Nitzira means to guard. Shmira. I want to ask you a personal question. Is that okay? The 10 suggestions, 10 commandments, right? How many versions, we have a trivia test here, of the 10 commandments appear in the Torah? 2. Excellent, Dr. Koff. 2. and in Yitro and in Parshat Vet Hanan. So, and there it happens to be that there are some very subtle differences. You'd think it's be the same thing. I mean, there's only one set of the 10 Commandments. So because it appears once when the Torah in Parshat Yitro describes what happened, and in Moshe in the Chumash Devarim, he reviews what happened. So he reviews the 10 Commandments. But the interesting thing is, with regards to which mitzvah, is there a famous difference between how the two sets of the commandments describe that mitzvah? Help me out. The mitzvah of Shabbos. Thank you, Dr. Koff. He's a doctor. He has a PhD in 10 Commandments. So the one says Shamor, you should guard the Shabbat. The other says Zachor, you should remember it. We're going to talk about this after davening, by the way. Why am I pointing over there? Because I'm beyond words. I'm totally operating on, because I'm going to be standing over there. That's why I'm pointing. It's unbelievable. I wasn't thinking. I just, at the end of davening, I spent 5 minutes of halacha. I'm going to talk a little bit about this idea. So, Shamor and Zachor. Does anybody know the difference between Shamor to guard the Shabbat versus Zachor to remember Shabbat? One is the...
To function, to actually observe it.
Yeah, which one is that? Okay, well, it depends how you define observe. So Zachor is the positive, and Shamor is to guard it. Refrain. So that's the idea here. Is the Muzzle of Note is Lashon Shmirah. It's to refrain, to hold back. Which attribute of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the term we have more familiarity with, which is a description of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's holding back. Good. So we talk about Gevurah or Din, right? That's the idea of holding back. So the Mazal of Notzer is, the word actually Notzer does mean Shmirah. It means to hold back. It means the lack of spreading out. That's what holding back is. That's the whole midah we were talking about earlier today about modesty, holding back. I'm giving a whole shir tonight about that, the Levine house, the idea of modesty. Lack of spreading out. That's also the idea of nothingness, because nothingness, right? There's nothingness and somethingness. The nothingness is hiddenness. Somethingness is let it all hang out, right? The ayin is modesty, holding back. Umazal v'nakeh. So that's all the mazal of Notzer. What's the mazal of nakeh? Hu inyan voseh chesed. It's the idea of chesed, as opposed to, as Larry just told us, din. So, which is holding back. So, nakeh is oseh chesed. It means to do chesed. Chesed means to give over. When you give tzedakah, what are you doing? You're expressing outwards. You're giving over. It's not always a good thing. We've talked about this a lot too, right? Someone comes up to you, he's a wino, and he says, "Can I have $1 for a bottle of Gallo?"
I used to help out too.
Help out.
Yeah.
Right? You give him $1 to go, he can buy more alcohol. That's not helping anybody. So when it comes to the divine modalities of creation, so the mazal of v'nakeh is associated with chesed. That's the idea of spreading out. That's to create yesh. So we have ayin v'yesh, nothingness and something. The mazal of notzer is nothingness. The mazal of v'nakeh is somethingness. You can remember this? This could come in handy later today. You never knew you're going to talk to, that these concepts could become useful. These two modalities are the separate sources of Chokhmah and Binah that flow from the mazalot of Notzer and Vinakeh. Right, as we said just now, Notzer is Chokhmah, Nakeh is Binah. The Chokhmah flows from the aspect of nothingness, nullification. That means to make out of something nothing. See, it's interesting. How did Kodesh Baruch create? He created something from nothing. You know what our job is? To create nothing from something. Because what is our fundamental experience of reality? Our fundamental experience of reality is something. We really seem super substantial. I exist. This table is real. This microphone is a lollipop. Everything is substantial. So you know what we need to do? We need to have the spiritual eyes to be able to look at the yesh and to realize that it's really ayin. It's really nothing. And we're going to stop on that note. Oh my God, how can we stop on that note? We will continue tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to be able to breathe between now and then.